Hello, welcome to Abyss Odyssey, a game released very recently on Steam a few days back, without a whole lot of fanfare, for some reason, but it was published by Atlus, and Atlus tends to publish very strange things, very unique and inventive things, and they don't do a lot of PC stuff. Most of their stuff consists of console stuff, like JRPGs. I think they actually do a lot of stuff with Level 5, don't they? Anyway, I was excited to see something they were publishing coming to PC, and immediately clung to it, even though I've seen no advertisements of any description for this game. And it was developed by Ace Team. Ace Team are the guys behind Xenoclash and Xenoclash 2, as well as Rock of Ages, which is awesome. You should play Rock of Ages. It is a very historically accurate bowling simulator. Yes, where you play as Sisyphus, and he uses a sentient boulder to ruin history. It's very Monty Python-esque. It's really funny. And Xenoclash are a bit different. I'm not actually a fan of those myself, but they're good for what they are if you like that sort of first-person alien-ish brawler game. I actually think the first one was better than the second one, but opinions. So they decided to make their own foray into the world of Rogue-lite games, and they definitely put their own spin on it. It's not like any of the others I've actually played or seen. I'd say it's most similar to something like Ascendant, but it's still not even really close to that. It's got a lot of mechanics, and it's one of those deceptively simple games where there's a lot to it, and there's a lot to learn, a lot of nuances. There's probably some stuff I'm not even going to be able to cover in this video because I don't know everything about it. It's one of those games where a wiki would be quite helpful, because there's a lot to it, so let's just get in right now. First of all, I'd like to say that the music in this game is incredible. It's almost Harry Potter-esque, that kind of enchanting score, but it's got more of a deeper tone and a lot of those bells and things to it. It's pretty cool, and that goes throughout the whole game. The music changes depending on what sorts of areas you're in, and it's a really good soundtrack. I like it a lot. Very atmospheric, but good for battles as well, because it's actually kind of upbeat, and it's pretty dark, and it fits the theme of the game, which is dark but not hopeless. So, first I'd like to say the game is recommended to be played with a controller. The PC version does, of course, support keyboard and mouse. It works pretty well. If I go into the help and options here, you can rebind your keys. They work. But I really, really recommend a controller. One of the cool things is that you can actually rebind the controller buttons except for the left stick and the back button, which is actually pretty rare in games. Even console games that are just on console a lot of times don't let you mess with the controls, which I find really weird. In this case, you can. And it might look simple, but there's a lot to learn when it comes to the combat system, and this game is very combat-focused. So we're going to go into it. First of all, the video settings menu, something to be wary of. It has a sort of ambient occlusion effect, even though the game it's 2.5D really. It's 2D in a 2D plane, but it has, 3D graphics, as you could probably tell. It's not like a sprite-based game or anything. And some people have said that having motion blur, basically what is ambient occlusion and God rays or light shafts, actually affect their frame rate really poorly. I think this might be on AMD systems or something. I've never had this problem. It stays at 60 FPS for me just fine, but I just want to make people aware of that because I've heard it's an issue for some people, but I've hardly heard of any major performance issues. So now that that's out of the way, the game actually has a versus mode, which is a local only, I think, as well as a training mode, which is pretty cool, which you'll see why in a few. But the main meat of the game is the Abyss. So you can actually play it online if you want, or do a local game. Both of these involve the possibility of co-op, so if you have someone with a controller or something, plug it into your PC, and you can play with someone, or go online. They just recently added, by popular demand, the option to turn off friendly fire, because a lot of people had issues with it, but if you do turn it off, you can't post your score to the leaderboard, so haha. And then there's Nightmare difficulty, which is not even remotely fair. It says, I actually find the game somewhat difficult sometimes, depending on the area. So yeah, I'm not sure about that, but we're gonna go into it right now. I pressed the wrong button like a noob. Alright, so local game. I've beaten the game once and unlocked another character, but I'm going to show you the main character for now because I have abilities unlocked for her. Actually, you know what? No, I will try this guy. What the heck? Alright, so the Abyss is randomly generated every time you go into it. But there are a couple things that stay the same. There are these 3 starting areas. I can't actually access the 3rd one yet. But these will have a different kind of merchant in them, and will also give you a different start into the Abyss. So, Santa Lucia, as you can tell, it's going to have some equipment and stuff for sale, and although it has more floors, as you can tell on the very left column, pointing at my screen like you can see, they're a bit easier. As you can see, it has a difficulty guide. And if you notice, each of those squares, every group of 4 basically, is in a sort of colored point on the map. That actually represents the type of terrain and enemies you're going to find. So that greenish bit about halfway down is a jungle area. Below that's an icy area. Then there's like a sort of grave area. It's actually very Castlevania-esque, the way that the areas look. And yeah, each of these has different things. I'm not sure what that yellow spot is in the middle. I've never actually gotten there. The question marks are these events that give you souls. The other symbols, I believe, are bosses. So to explain all this, I'll just get into it, but let's start in Santa Lucia. The areas are randomly generated, by which I mean their layout is going to change, and the difficulty, the order of the difficulty that they are, is also going to change. So, here's one thing. The game has voice acting, and it's all pretty good. The voice acting actually changes all the time. There's a lot of it between different characters and who you're playing. As you can tell, my character looks pretty freaking amazing. He's made of glowing skeletons. I don't really see how you could be cooler than that. I'm basically a ring wraith. And
you look like one of the monsters from the Abyss.
Yeah.
You aren't attacking us. What are you?
Yeah. Indeed.
Stop! I know these men. They were in my regiment.
We all met our end down below.
I'm a conglomeration of dead soldiers.
What do you mean?
Happy day.
we? Are you Death? Did you take them?
We are a monk, a hermit. Nothing more, nothing less.
Indeed. And you can find various things and people to talk to, and the dialogue changes between times you talk to them and between the actual character you talk to them with, which is pretty cool. So there's a shop. Your gold is kept between runs. This is one of those rogue-lite games, so it of course has permadeath. But the gold that you actually gather is something that you keep in between runs. You lose all of your equipment, but you do in fact keep your gold. So right now, I could buy another two-handed sword, but this one has only 1 more attack, and I'm not really interested in doing that. I'll be able to find weapons when I'm down below in the Abyss, so let's just go.
Normally I stop people from going into the abyss, but you belong down there.
Well, thank you. So, into the Abyss we go. The music is going to immediately change, and you're going to see... It's actually quite pretty down here. For something called the Abyss, it actually looks pretty good, and I think you'll immediately get the Castlevania vibes when we get down here, so... Alright, here we are. Alright, so I've never actually played this guy before. I have no idea what he's like, but I got a key first off, so... One thing, the first thing I want to point out is attention to detail. The fact that all these backgrounds are very detailed, very good looking, and the fact that even little things like animation quality is actually very good, and, oh god, that's not a good start at all. I don't even know what abilities this guy has. And the fact that when you get keys, they actually hang from your belt, even when you transform, which, yes, you can transform. Of course you can. And this is the combat system. It involves a few buttons, actually, pretty much the entire controller. You have your normal attacks, which, of course, change in function depending on which direction you're pressing when you actually do them. You have attacks that can be done in midair, which are completely different. You have dodges, you have cancels, and you have special attacks, which apparently I can throw a fireball as this guy. Who knew? Your special attacks are things that you will gain as you travel. You can find them as, like now, as treasures. You also have a throw, which is kind of funny to use on big creatures. But the combat system has a lot of depth to it, even if it doesn't seem so at first. There is a post on the Steam guides page for this game that is from the developer themselves, and they are detailing in the guide some of the more advanced techniques, even smaller things like the fact that you can high jump by crouching and jumping first, so you actually jump higher, to the fact that some characters have a dash when they dodge near the ground, and the way that you can cancel dodges and attacks and specials into more specials and dodges. So there's a lot to it, actually, which I like a lot. It's got a pretty high skill ceiling, even if at first it's quite easy. There's a lot you can learn, and I have a feeling a lot of that would be pretty necessary in the Nightmare difficulty mode. So, alright, continue going. The Abyss is going to have lots of features, so we're talking treasures, chests, altars, secret walls, merchants, enemies, of course, and hazards. You saw those spikes earlier? There are all kinds of different hazards around, and they change in theme depending on the type of area you're in. So when you get to one of these, you can mess with your skills and also put skill points into things if you have any, which you get one every 3 levels. Everything has 3 points you can actually put into it, and in this case it's always damage and the amount of mana you get, but there's also a defense part which changes depending on the ability. In this case, it'll, as you can see, kind of shield me from being interrupted and reduce the damage I take during the sort of initial casting phase of this ability. This is the only one I have right now, but I'll get more for this character as I go. I have 4 for the first character. And here's a merchant down here. He sells all kinds of good stuff. A fire stock sounds really nice. Rusty scimitar, mirror necklace, antidote, health vial. You can also fight him, but I've heard he's really hard, and I don't want to do that right now. I want the fire stock because it looks super cool. You cannot sell things, unfortunately, but as you can see, you've got various inventory slots. You have 4 for consumables like potions, antidotes, and things. You have a necklace slot, a bracelet slot, or is that a, yeah, and a ring slot, as well as a slot to put a soul, which is something I haven't explained yet. So you, as a character, when your mana bar fills up, which is the only thing it's for, your special attacks don't actually consume mana. When it fills up, you can do your ultra attack, which will kill just about anything it hits pretty easily, and if you are of a higher level, I believe, you have a good chance of actually capturing the enemy it kills soul. And you can pick that soul up and then transform into that enemy at any time. This is an integral part of the game because it's basically another life, since it's a permadeath game, because if you die while transformed into that creature, you just lose its soul, but you transform back, and you can still do, you can still play, you don't lose your character. And you are actually able to use the entire moveset of that creature, including all of its specials, all of its combos, and that was stupid. All of its combos and attacks and everything. You can actually use all of that stuff. Even on bosses, you can even soul capture bosses if you're of a proper level, and can become quite powerful if you do that. So that's a really cool system. That's kind of the main feature, I suppose you could say, of the game. The fact that there are actually lots of characters to play as, each with their own movesets and specials and things. And capturing souls is something you're going to be wanting to do to increase your survivability down here significantly. You'll also find dying soldiers, usually at least one on every floor, that will give you some stuff. In this case, he gave me a potion. That's a large one, which is 750 health? Yes. I'm not going to use it right yet, even though I could. And that's how the game goes, really. You explore the Abyss. Obviously, as you can see, some areas connect in different ways, to where you don't only have to go down, you can do all sorts of things, really. And they have various different features on each floor, until you get to the very bottom, which is, of course, the final boss, the Warlock himself. The game, the permadeath system is not quite as I described it, actually. You don't immediately lose when your character dies. When your character dies, you play as a soldier instead. And if the soldier can get to one of those altars that you saw, you can actually revive your character and continue on. But if that soldier then dies, then you're done. You lose all your equipment, and you're sent back up to the start. The only thing you keep are your levels and your gold. And you gotta start again. That was dumb. Oh my god. I'm gonna heal myself. I'm not used to playing as this character. He's a lot slower in terms of his attacks, but he's pretty strong. Also, I can set dudes on fire, which is pretty cool. The enemies, especially in hard areas, and I've heard especially on Nightmare mode, can actually get pretty smart, doing lots of dodges and sometimes cancels and things. If you notice that there's those blue orbs, next to my commentating and playing at the same time is quite difficult. Those blue orbs next to my health and mana gauges up there, those are cancel points. So if I do a cancel like that, it uses one. So you can't infinitely cancel in and out of things, but you can use the skill points dedicated to updating your skills to instead upgrade the amount of cancel points you have up to, as you can see, 3. Your skill points are not permanent. You can reset them for no cost and change them out at any time, so you can vary your suite of abilities pretty often. Ow. And I'm going to lose, I think, because I'm not very good as this character. I'm not used to his moveset at all. It's quite different. Ow. He's definitely a lot slower. And I'm used to having a 3-hit combo on my just press the X button, but I don't actually have that. Ah, got me. Now, as you can see, I am going to play as a soldier. Even the soldier I'm playing as is actually different. He's got an axe. So I can pick up the sword that he dropped. Alright, so this soldier has a shotgun, a slide, and some stuff like that. Alright, so familiarizing yourself with the movesets of who you're playing as is pretty important. We're going to see if we can keep going in this. The soldiers you get to play as are pretty strong. But, of course, if I die as the soldier, then that's it. Alright. Oh, looks like I got lucky and there's one of these altars on this floor. There's one on every floor, but not all of them look like that. Some of them have the Warlock's mask above them, and those will not revive you. There we go. So that's how that works. A Hellshine Nova. Wow, that is a really good weapon. It's going to cost most of my gold. Actually, no, not most of my gold. More gold than I have. We're going to buy this and the soul of one of those weird centaur ladies. Now, here's something else. There are checkpoints. So normally when you die, as I said, you go back to the very start. But you can find these next to every altar. And you can set a checkpoint here, but it requires an item called a camp token. They're quite expensive. There are 3 different kinds, camp token 1, 2, and 3. And when you set one, a flag will raise and soldiers will spawn. And the soldiers that spawn down here can help you fight monsters and things, which is very, very useful. They're pretty good. But when you die, it sort of takes a life. So, more or less, what the heck is that? I've never... That thing is horrifying. It's like a flying crucified... Oh, he's not crucified. Look crucified from that angle. Okay, I don't know what that is, but I don't like it. Let's transform. I am now a centaur chick. Fear me. Alright. There is, of course, blocking and parrying and reflecting projectiles, but... Oh, he breaks my guard. Okay, as I was saying, the camp tokens last for the number of deaths that they say. So a camp token 1 will only last for 1 death. And then after that, the soldiers will no longer be able to keep the camp down there, and then the next time you die, well, the checkpoint's gone. So the strongest that they come, and the most expensive they come, is camp token 3, which are about 6,000 gold. And that will give you 3 chances to spawn back at that camp. And after that, you're done. So that's a very interesting system. It means that you can actually avert the permadeath-ish aspect, sort of, for a limited time. There's also this guy. There are lots of different events and things that can happen down here that can do all kinds of things, really. And in this case, you pay him 100 gold. He gives you a strange quote, and then that gives you experience. So that one was worth 500, which was very much worth 100 gold. And it continues on. You just keep going. You try to just explore the abyss, make it as far down as you can, and eventually defeat the Warlock. I've defeated him once. He's not super difficult, but he has this annoying, I'm going to spray fish at you attack. I don't know why he sprays fish at you, but that's what he does. And it can be kind of obnoxious to try and dodge sometimes, depending on where you are in the arena, but yeah. So, they've already updated the game once, so that's good for them. They're obviously listening to their audience, because the game has only been out for a couple of days, and they've already updated it once. They updated it with the friendly fire thing, with the Nightmare mode, a couple of changes like the interface displaying the proper buttons, depending on if you're using a controller or the keyboard, as well as there were some complaints that the controls felt a little sluggish. I think really a lot of that is just down to learning how each character performs, but one thing I didn't like was the fact that some characters took a little too long to turn from left to right. With her it makes sense because she's got 4 legs, but some of the characters did take a little while to turn, and it made the combat feel a little unresponsive sometimes when you were trying to hit something behind you and you ended up attacking in front of you instead because you didn't turn quick enough. They fixed that, and they made some characters turn quicker than they used to. So that was one of my only complaints about the controls, really. The more I've played, I've found that my original thoughts that the controls felt a little sluggish was actually not true. It was kind of like the first time I played Demon's Souls, and I thought the combat had almost too much weight to it to a certain extent. It's actually just fine in my opinion, it just takes a lot of getting used to, and the fact that each different character you can capture controls differently makes it to where it does take a minute for you to actually get used to the whole not dying thing. But you definitely can. I don't think there's a problem inherently with the controls. I think for the most part they're good. Maybe they could improve the turning rate a bit more on some of the characters. Maybe they could improve the frame response on some of the characters with doing certain combos, but I feel that it's mostly pretty good. And it's fairly challenging to learn each character and learn how each of their attacks work and what kind of combos you can create via canceling. So, to make an example of a more advanced combat system, I could... where's that? That's a pretty cool attack, and it sets you up for another attack if you cancel. So for instance, I could do this, and then do that really quickly, which would actually make me hit twice really fast and send them flying backwards. You can also do stuff like this, or even just dodge out of something like that. You can use your cancel points very effectively, and having all 3 of them is actually really, really advantageous, and I'd recommend it pretty soon. That makes the kind of sluggish feel that some people thought they were experiencing with the combat system go away almost entirely. It becomes pretty clear that it's less down to the fact that the controls are unresponsive, because I don't think they are. It's more down to just learning what combos do what and at what range, and what kind of cancels you can perform. It's all pretty important, especially in the Nightmare mode and fighting the Warlock and things like that, because he will cancel attack you like a boss and just stun lock you for a while and do like 500 damage, and the next thing you know you're dead and you're crying in the corner and the I'd start all over again. Ow. Alright. Not having a way to generate a lot of mana with this guy isn't great. I don't have a lot of specials yet, I only have 1. So yeah. But that's really the game in a nutshell. It's just continuing, trying to get various monsters and treasures, trying to survive, and learning which paths are good to take when, and as you do different things, depending on how deep you go and what kind of monsters you defeat, you can actually unlock sort of new events. Like, say now I have the ability to spawn this weird violin playing guy who's like the mascot for the game on Steam, who will give you some good stuff, but is a boss that you have to defeat who plays a violin, has a really good music track that plays when you fight him, by the way, and I won it like in my music library like immediately. But if you can beat him, you can get some good stuff, and that's just how the game goes, really. It's all about learning. It's definitely about learning what kind of paths mean what. And it's a game that, unlike a lot of roguelites that you can actually beat fairly easily, maybe your second or third time through, but it's a game that has a lot of depth to it still. And that is going to keep you guessing, I think, with a lot of the stuff that they are throwing at you. A lot of the characters that you can beat, and some of the other events, like say when you're able to get a soul of a character for free, but you have to defeat 4 enemies with it in order to actually sort of win it, like a Coliseum fight almost. And that kind of makes you play as a character you're not necessarily used to, but that's often quite powerful, like almost a mini-boss level character. So it's cool. I think there's a lot of variety in the game. There's a lot of items and things. There's not as much as other more item-focused roguelite games like, say, Risk of Rain or Full Mojo Rampage, but there's a lot of equipment. And the various status effects and combinations with the combos you can do actually adds quite a bit of depth. Also, there's these. I found some various walls. I think these are like the walls that you can break, only you need a specific type of weapon to break them. I think that one I might need like an ice weapon or something. I've seen another one that I think was the opposite. It was a wall made of ice, so I guess if I had like a fire sword like this, I could probably break it. But I don't know that yet, and again, that's kind of one of the things I mean, is that there's a lot of things to learn while you're playing this. But if you do learn them, and as you keep going through, I think you'll get pretty good at it once you start to unlock the depth through learning. So it's cool. I like the idea that it's fairly simple at first, but the more you learn, the better you get at it, because you just kind of continually enhance your abilities. Let's just keep going down this way. It's not easy, though. Some people are having an easier time with it than I am. I guess I'm just not the best at these types of games, is probably why. But I wouldn't say it's absurdly hard either. And the fact that they've already updated it once, like, the day after it came out, I think. Geez, there's a lot of spikes in this part. This is a bad place to fight. Lets me know, at least in my opinion, that they will likely be updating it more, and they're obviously listening to their fan base. They have replied to a ton of threads on the Steam forums already and talked about their future plans. So I have no doubt that they will be adding even more updates to this. This is a really cheap way to win this fight, but there's too many spikes around. And yeah, that's really just how it works. You go through, you cheese some spiky fights, I guess. And yes, you can play as that big stone golem thing if you capture a soul, and I've done it, and he is very powerful. That's actually the time that I won the game, even though I didn't have him by the time I reached the Warlock. He died the level before that, which sucked. But hey, I still beat it. So, the game in a nutshell basically is Ace Team and Atlus's take on the whole roguelite thing. And I've got to say that it's clear they've made it their own. They've done their own thing, and it's good. I like it. And I hope for more, for future updates. Maybe they'll make a DLC with more characters or something, who knows. So I'd recommend that if it looks interesting to you, you get in on it, because there's already a pretty good amount of content here. It's a very unique game in terms of just the sort of mechanics it uses, the way the combat feels, and even the way it looks. It all comes into a pretty tight package that I think is worth the money, and it's not a lot of money. It's only $15 on Steam. So yeah, I would really recommend that you just go buy it, like, immediately. I'm going to get... Should I upgrade this? I think I'm just going to get another cancel point with this skill point. And let's see what this guy's got for sale. Ooh. A Fritz Blade. Ooh, that's a nice weapon. The Rabbit's Foot is nice. Darkness Ring is good. I can get another soul. Skeleton Warrior Soul. Let's get that. What the heck? Try and last as best I can through this, so I can show you that again. And that's how the game goes. You continue, you get different characters, and eventually you beat it. And obviously beating the boss will unlock more characters, and I hope eventually that they will add even more stuff to it through updates and maybe DLC. I would definitely be willing to pay for a DLC that added more levels to the Abyss and more monsters to capture. So yeah, that's what I think about Abyss Odyssey. I think it's pretty great, and I recommend it pretty heartily. And now we're gonna have to fight a boss. Good thing I bought this soul. Boss time. Alright, so that boss acts a lot like the character that I actually just unlocked. I remember him. I've never actually played as this guy, though. I'd like to kill him with the Ultra, but I don't have the mana right now, so that's not gonna happen. Ow. See if I can create some cool combos. It's actually really fun playing as different characters when you try to come up with different combos via cancels, like using their specials in a certain order that makes them more powerful and stuff like that. It's cool. Like I said, there's a surprising amount of depth to the combat system, even though it might not look like it at first. And I also don't know what Curse does. I think it makes you slower. Ow. Jeez, this guy's strong. I don't think I've ever fought this boss in the hard difficulty area. Ouch, he got me. Alright, well, not good. Let's So, it's really hard to commentate this and play it at the same time because there's so much timing involved and I'm screwing up the timings like near constantly while I'm trying to talk. I should really be reflecting those. Ow, ow. Ow. Gotta time that better. Even the enemies can cancel, and they will. So yeah, I suppose I'm going around in circles now. That's what I think of Abyss Odyssey. I highly recommend it. Ace Team is pretty cool. I like their stuff. Atlus is awesome and crazy, and they need to keep developing for PC because I like them. And that hurt a lot. So there you go, folks. Abyss Odyssey available now on Steam. $15. I will link you to it in the description below. And go for it. You can play by yourself. If you're a lonely soul like me, you can play... Oh my god. You can play online with other people that you may not know. Ooh, an ability. Hang on. I don't want to do that right now because there's a guy trying to kill me. You can even co-op or versus with all the different kinds of characters you unlock, almost Super Smash Bros. Style. It's fantastic. I really, really like it. And I don't think I could recommend it any more than I currently do. The fact that it's obviously going to get some more attention and updates and stuff, that's a good deal. So there we go, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please tell me if there's anything else you want to see, and enjoy the link in the description. Also, I got a cool diving ability. Nice. I'll see you guys next time.